Okay, so you can see on this whiteboard, I'm keeping that idea of this social structure because we're going to talk about those first two components of a social structure. And we'll talk about this organizational tool of the social structure over and over for the rest of the semester, I've said. Social structure, again, is how life is organized in an orderly and predictable way. It is the context by which we understand the things that we need to do or shape our behavior. Again, we just showed up in this society. We've got to fit in. We got to know what it is we're going to have to do. So the first thing that we need to learn or understand is what is a status. This is not the same as something like esteem or how important you are in society. A status is a recognizable position that a person occupies in society. It's your social position, essentially. Your book uses words like rank in society. It's not really rank because it's not about things like prestige or esteem. It's just who you are. I'm a professor. I'm a mother. I'm a woman. I am a haver of gray hair. I am a glasses wearer. I am, whatever. If you can start the statement with I am, it's like you're graphing the society based on their statuses. And the book also uses the word role. It's not role because that's number two. We're going to talk about roles. So those are the book gives a very contradictory definition, if you will, but it does an okay description of what a status is. It's a recognizable position of a person in society. It's a recognizable position of an individual. It's where they occupy. Like imagine you are in a math class and you had to graph somebody on an X and Y axis. That's what your status is. That's really it, right? So we want to talk about what is, how nice is that? There are two kinds of statuses that I want you to make sure that you know. One is called an ascribed status, and one is an achieved status. An ascribed status is any status that you have by having done nothing. Your book says it's a status outside of an individual's control, such as your sex or your race. You're born with the status. Whether or not you are a brother or a sister had nothing to do with you. It's something that your parents did, and now that is your status, but it had nothing to do with any choice that you made. Those are your ascribed statuses. We also have some achieved statuses. Those are statuses, your book says, that a person chooses, such as level of education or income. Um, in order for you to be a Rock Valley College student, you had to do something. You had to fill out a form. You had to call somebody. You had to pay tuition. You had to do something to say, now I am a college student, or now I am a Rock Valley College student. For me, I'm a wife. In order to be a wife, I had to get married. For me, I am a mother. In order to be a mother, I had to do the thing that people do to have kids. I am a sister. I didn't do anything to do that. So that is achieved. I mean, that's ascribed. So you have some ascribed statuses, you have some achieved statuses. Those achieved statuses happen by some version of your effort. All of your statuses together is your status set. We all have multiple statuses, many of them ascribed, many of them achieved. Of that status set, we all generally have a master status. The master status is the one within the set that stands out or overrides all the others. It's the one that people most know about you. In this context, at Rock Valley College, my master status for you is that I'm the professor. Your master status to me is that you're the student. In some cases, my master status is that I'm a woman. Doesn't matter what else I also am. It might matter to some people when I'm in the space that I'm a woman. For some people, my master status is that I am Black. That might be the thing that is of most interest. Could be my age, could be my weight, could be my hair, but whatever the situation is, one of those statuses will override the others. A person that uses a wheelchair for mobility, doesn't matter if they're the greatest violinist on this side of the world, people will often describe them as the person that uses the wheelchair. That is their master status. There's a distinction between statuses and roles, and I'm trying not to erase the whole page because I don't want to make the social structure part go away. I'll figure out better how to do that. So when I talk about roles, I am talking about two things. I am talking about the expectations of your behavior, but I'm also talking about your actual performance of your behavior. And the reason why this distinction is there, because the role is the pattern of your behavior that's representative of your social status. So if you have a status of professor, you have some expected roles. As a professor, I am expected to teach. I'm expected to make a video. I'm expected to lecture. I'm expected to build the Eagle Classroom. I'm expected to assign work. I'm expected to grade the work. There's a whole lot of expectations about my behavior when I have the status of professor. But that's very different about what I actually do. Um, I might be expected to um, post 5 announcements a week. The question is, did I actually post 5 announcements a week, or was my performance that I put 2 announcements per week? Like, who's making these distinctions or definitions? That could be a whole other conversation. But the role is your expected behavior in that status or your actual performance of that status. All of your roles create your role set. So you've got a whole lot of statuses, and for every one of those statuses, you have a role or multiple roles in your role set. Your book defines the role set as the array of roles associated to a particular status. Here's where this becomes very interesting. Let's say that you are a father. That's your status, right? When you are a father as a status, you have the role of, um, feeding your kids. You have the role of driving your kids to wherever it is they need to go. You have the role of disciplining your kids. You have the role of coaching your kids' basketball team. Lots of things that fathers do, right? Lots and lots of roles. But as a father, one of the things when you need to provide for your kids, for instance, it means that you also have to have a job, maybe. So let's say that you are a father and you're also a lawyer. That's another status that you have. And in order for you to be a lawyer, you have to like preside over cases. I don't think they do. I think that's what judges do, right? You need to do some research. You need to make some phone calls. You need to choose a jury. You've got a lot of things to do as a lawyer, right? You got to do some reading, lots and lots of things that you have to do. That's your role set for being a father. That's your role set for being a lawyer. Here's the thing. You are a one person. So all of this is you. And that includes all of your other statuses, all of your other roles, all of your other statuses, all of your other roles. And what's important about that, first and foremost, is that your roles are associated with other people's roles, right? So you're a father, you've got a status of a father, and one of your roles is driving your kids to their basketball game and being the coach of the basketball game. That's important because your kid who has a status has is also a basketball player. That's their status. And their role is to show up on time. Their role is to be coached, right? So your statuses and your roles are interconnected with other people's statuses and other people's roles, right? You have an entire status set, and in those status sets, every one of those statuses has their own role set, and they're always connected to other people's statuses and other people with roles. When we ask that question again, what does social interaction have to do with it? This is where it happens. Because in every one of those connections, you're having interactions. And again, you're creating behaviors that are patterned behaviors that we are habituating and repeating over and over and over. We are constructing reality and building society over and over and over again. There's a couple concepts that I want you to think about with roles, and I'm going to get rid of the social structure thing instead of trying to erase this whole thing. There's a problem. We have the problem of role strain and role conflict. The truth is that when you are a father and you are a lawyer, for instance, one of your roles as a father is to coach basketball, for instance. One of your roles as a lawyer might be to work hard and stay late at school. I mean, at the office. Sometimes what you have is a conflict because the thing that you need to do as a father conflicts with the thing that you need to do as a lawyer. You have the stress of a role conflict when the role of two different statuses conflict with one another. It's hard for you to do both of these very well. You experience the stress of a role strain when you have roles in a single status that are hard for you to do. So, on the one hand, you are a coach, which means you may have to be hard on the kid. You may have to teach lessons. You may have to give tough love. But at the same time, you are a father, which means you might want to comfort the kid who had a hard game, who had a hard time, or fell, or skinned their knee. These things create a strain because I both want to be an effective coach, but I also want to be an effective father. And I've got responsibility in all of those ways. Heck, the coach is another status. It might be the role of the father to participate in those kinds of things, but that's a status. So, I've got conflict in the things that are expected of me in my status, and I am strained by those things that are expected of me in a single status. So how we sort of work these things out, that's the big the big meaning of life. Like we're always trying to figure these things out all around. Those social interactions themselves is how we are building the society. And so when we think about that social structure again, those statuses, those roles, the groups, the organizations and networks, and the social institutions, when we talk about all that stuff, it's almost like we're looking at the society as if it's a rock and trying to make some determination about should we describe it based on its size? Should we describe it based on its weight, its color, its texture? All of those things are parts of that same rock, parts of that same society. And we're just trying to find multiple ways to describe it. The last thing that your book does, and I'm not going to talk very much about, but it's kind of just squeezed it in there in that chapter. It's talking about dramaturgical analysis. It's a symbolic interactionist perspective in trying to understand people's statuses and their roles, essentially like how do we think about the ways that people interact with one another or choose to interact with one another as they perform in these roles? Again, not just the expectation of what you're supposed to do, but your actual performance in how you're doing that. Symbolic interactionists will do that with dramaturgy. So you'll see that in that chapter as well. That's all. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for your time.